Welcome back, you delightful humans. What's that? Have you got a bit of a pain in your neck? Well, let me talk to you about how to age backwards and start healing. So today, I've got the book review of Superhuman by Dave Asprey. You might know Dave from his pretty popular podcast where he's got, I believe, almost 1,000 episodes. So he's definitely gone well faster than the mere mortals, but he's also been around for a lot longer. So Superhuman, the bulletproof plan to age backwards and maybe even live forever. So let's start at the very beginning. Dave Asprey, who is he? Why should we be listening to this? And why should we be caring about this book? So Dave began his life, as a bit of context, and to give you a bit of a perspective of where he comes from this book. He was pretty ill as a young man, as a boy. And, he shares a little bit about it in this book. But, from what I know about him as well, he went through quite a lot of toxicity issues with mold. He was quite overweight. And basically when he was in his mid-20s and early 20s, all the doctors was basically saying to him, both your mitochondrial energy, just all of the signs, all of the blood samples that we've gotten from you, everything else is just pretty much saying to us, you're old. You're maybe not saying to him like you're about to die, but you're very biologically old compared to what you should be. So that's obviously where he got his beginnings, and he is a certified biohacker, I will say. So a biohacker, for those who might not know, is sort of hacking away your biology to try and improve something. So some people that might be to be faster, to be smarter. I think it's a focus here that Dave is definitely to live longer, and he calls it out a couple of times. His goal is to age to 180 and to do so gracefully and with the ability to maintain all of his facilities at that point in time. So obviously, best of luck to Dave on that. But that gives you an idea of where he's coming into when he's talking about this book. So the actual book itself is broken up into three main parts, and that is not to die. So in order to become a superhuman, what does he suggest? Well, first is don't die. Second is going to be aging backwards, and then third, how to actually heal like a deity. So let's start at the beginning, that not to die. And sort of Dave talks through the four main pillars of death, right? The four killers that we all see. So that's cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. So, can't recall if he actually talks about percentages here or not, but those four are generally the main killers of all humans on Earth. Sure, other people may die for different reasons. There may be accidents. But for all intents and purposes, if you're going to go and die of old age, that is probably going to be the killers that are going to get you. So he goes through and talks about, for about 1/3 of the book, around some of the science behind that. What are some of the things that you can do to actually hack away at your body? And then that sort of melds into that second section of aging backwards. So amongst these two, he goes between the 7 pillars of aging as well as the four main killers, and just talks through a lot of things like sleeping, like food, like light, vitamin D, supplementation, a lot of different things that can help. I guess he goes through and showcases examples of what he's actually done and tried. And he's an incredible biohacker, and he has tried a lot of things. So, I'll probably say I'm a little bit extreme-ish in the sense of what things I'm happy to try in terms of biohacking and improving myself, but nowhere close to Dave Asprey. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So in the age backwards section, so that's that middle section of the book, Dave goes into utilizing some more specific things to actually heal your mitochondria, improve your energy, improve your sleep cycles, and then he moves into the healing like a deity. So this is the third section, which is more around, okay, once you've actually sorted out the fact that you're not going to die early, and you've helped your mitochondrial energy, you've set up your cells in the right way, you're cleaning out your damaged cells and everything else, then there's these other things you can do to both appear younger. So that could be not looking like an alien, as he calls it, right? Not being bald, not being wrinkly. There's also, and this lends itself as well. These are some of the more, common things, which are more superficial things of anti-aging, as well as some more extreme things. So that's really sort of broken up those sections in the book. Takeaways for me. So I've got to start at this point before I get into the key takeaways that I pulled out as well. This book is heavy on the science. Heavy. Now, I enjoy science. I've enjoyed previously some mathematical books, some Can't recall them off the top of my head, but if you're thinking mathematical science books, I really enjoy them. But this was almost just a little bit of a step over the hill for me in terms of how like the scientific information that was getting pumped through, and that other people might really appreciate that. You can obviously tell in the back of the book if you actually look at this, right? It's quite thick. But I believe the last 30 or 40 pages are notes and actual citations of all the information he pulls. So, I'm not going to call him out and saying that the depth of it was a little bit too extreme because there's a reason. There's a lot of science stuff. There's a lot of things when it comes to food, health, biohacking, that having all that information there present around exactly where he's getting that from is actually beneficial, even though I didn't go down in the depths and fully checking out those citations there. So take that as a bit of an advice. If you don't enjoy reading something deeply scientific, this might be something that puts you off. But if you do want to get through something that tells you a little bit about how you could become a superhuman, then do so. Now, takeaways from me. I'll break them up because generally they fell all in the body section for the way that I split things, as you might be able to tell because it's a superhuman and living longer or longevity of life. And for me, there was a couple of things around food. So one is consuming more antioxidants to actually fight free radicals. The second one was it's worth ordering grass-fed steak and no charring. So I just wanted to talk about this. Previously, I was an individual who would just buy the cheapest cut of meat, the simplest thing to find. Definitely, just before actually reading this book. That was me. I just didn't care. I was happy with the $6, half a kilo of chicken and whatever it might be for mince. But just talking, obviously reading through a couple of things there and around the amount of chemicals that might be found in some of those meats, and also that extra charring actually being detrimental for individuals made me actually shift to actually buy those sort of grass-fed steaks and beef as well as organic chicken. And look, yes, it's a little bit more expensive, but two things. One, it actually tastes a lot better. I couldn't actually believe that it would be that much better tasting. So obviously one. And two, I'm hoping that's going to be a little bit of a benefit when it comes to the longevity of life. So that's another one there. Developing metabolic flexibility with a cyclical ketosis diet. So let me break this one again. I've shared this story, but I'll share it here a little bit quickly. So once upon a time, I was in the States, I believe again in 2012, 2013. And I went through this period where I was just used to eating a lot of carbohydrates and really, really often. So I would eat every 2 to 3 hours. Now, there was a portion of time when for some reason, we were traveling from one location to another and we weren't going to have any food for around 6 hours. And my body just shut down. It did not know what to do with food or with the absence of food. All right. So my metabolic flexibility was shocking. It was terrible. Now, specifically, Dave talks about the cyclical ketosis diet, and that is the ability to almost go into ketosis, not all the time, but being in it for quite a big portion of time, maybe 4 days out of 7 days of the week, and then being on a non-ketosis diet for the rest. So just being able to fluctuate and allow your body to utilize fat as energy as well as carbohydrates for energy, and not becoming too dependent on either or. So the two things that I actually took away and started doing was one, introducing a little bit of the bulletproof coffee, so making my own, and that is coffee, unsalted grass-fed butter, as well as a little bit of the MCT oil and the specific octane oil, which is one of the strains of MCT oil that's more specific to, I guess, like a brain nootropic / giving you that fat in the morning. So utilizing that right in the morning before I go work out and not eating until later on in the day has allowed me to, introduce a cyclical ketosis diet. So I'm not doing that all the time, but, helping me out and achieving that sort of more metabolic flexibility. And that sort of ties in with also the fasting can promote autophagy. So autophagy is actually the body's way of cleaning all your damaged cells. And that's usually done, there's different ways, of course, but one of the ways is if you're fasting, it actually promotes this. So promoting autophagy for me is something quite recent. Again, if I shared that story with you about when I was in the States and with just terrible metabolic flexibility, I don't think I was giving myself any time to really propose correct autophagy in my body. So I was probably not really clearing away all of those damaged cells. I've been now taking on those takeaways from the book for the last 3 weeks or so. Have I said that it's produced amazing improvements in that short term? Not particularly. Maybe a little bit of mental acuity in the mornings, perhaps. But, the biggest things out of this book is you're not looking at the short term. So Dave's obviously, he's looking to live till 180. he talks through some of these items on the book that, yes, he felt immediate response, let's say using peptides or using direct ozone therapy, where he essentially will pull out your blood and do 10 passes of ozone and throw it back into your body. Now, if you heard that right, blood out, 10 times being sort of ozonized and then put back into your body. Yeah, I'm not about that, but that's the level of Dave's biohacking. But indeed, a lot of those things, there's a couple that he shared with us that was, direct short-term benefits, but a lot of them are, you might not really see the benefits in your immediate or even like mid-term sort of timing in terms of 5-10 years, but it's maybe 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Perhaps when I hit 70 years old, I'll find that a lot of these ways in terms of actually promoting autophagy has really helped out my damaged cells over a long period of time, and I would really be able to see a difference if I hadn't. Another big takeaway from Dave as well, and this comes through on Superhuman, but also in the way that he sort of shares, is with biohacking, if you wanted to undertake almost in a scientific, hypothesis-driven method of, okay, let me see if vitamin D really works out, and so I'll take vitamin D for a month, and then you'll go and take vitamin C for a month, supplementation, and then you might take magnesium for another month, and you'll reduce things and bring things on to see what's working. Now, the problem with that is you'll probably die multiple times over before you can actually go and try everything that is available in this world. So Dave's view of it is, well, he would rather go and spend X amount of money and be able to try just as many things as possible, because if at least a portion of it is helping him out, then that is still the benefit, even if there's other stuff that's completely doing nothing. So I guess he sort of suggests that's the way, and then pulling away a couple of things to see if everything's still working. Now, do I agree with that wholeheartedly? Not really, because I can see how potentially having too many things in your body can lead to then sort of overindulging in potentially different vitamins and different minerals that all of a sudden now are detrimental to you because you got too much and you're not actually tracking things. But maybe somewhere a happy medium in between would be quite good. So final thoughts for me on Superhuman by Dave Asprey. Technical, god dang technical, especially in the scientific portions of it. I read it quite deeply, but I've got to say there was a page or two where he might have been talking about ozone therapy or some of the light procedures and methods that you could take on, which was sort of infrared light and yellow light. And to me, I was like, okay, this is so far down the path of this particular method that I don't really care about, and I'm probably going to skip by. But one thing that it is quite good is it's not like it's a whole book on light. There's, if I had to guesstimate, there's probably 60 odd methods that he sort of shared across the book. And if you find yourself not being too familiar with one or not caring about one, it's quite easy to skip a couple of pages and just get into the next section, which is really, really quite good. Heavy, but awesome. A lot of information. There was a lot of takeaways for me. I am going to be giving Superhuman by Dave Asprey a 7.5 out of 10. That's quite high. And the reason I'm giving it so high is that the book was well written. Dave's a pretty funny guy. I like him in audio, and in book he comes across quite well. Keeps it pretty succinct in the parts at least that not delve deep with science. And I just took a lot of things that I can feel directly are improving me personally. So I hope you can get the book, read it as well, see if you get any benefits. I'd love to hear your comments around Superhuman if you read it. And I know I was going to say that there's a new book from Dave around fasting that I'll probably want to be picking up over the next couple of months or so to actually read it, because I did enjoy this book so much. So Superhuman, Dave Asprey. Folks, Juan out.